Today's video is going to focus on what is known as the Shaker Long Ditch and a walk that we take along it with the four hounds, the two Malinois puppies, Gypie, the irrepressible blue-tick coonhound, and Koko, the crazy animal. Yep, we're going to take a walk on this man-made canal that linked Lyford Pond with the North Family Pond, which ultimately fed the sawmills and the turning mills at Canterbury Shaker Village. So this is the practical beginning of the ditch. You can see Rex and Gypie down there in it. It actually begins at Lyford Pond. But we're going to start here today, and we're going to walk the ditch for a while. Did you see Buck go out?
Yeah, he's out there. They're both together.
All right. Okay, Belle, let's go. Okay, good girl. Let's go, guys. As we go through this walk here, I will be rattling off some facts and figures, most of which I received from the Journal of the Society for Industrial Archeology, their volume 12, number 1, dated 1986, and authored by David R. Starbuck. Reading from the document that I referenced, between 1839 and 1840, the ditch was widened, straightened, and deepened for a stretch of 2 miles. Also at this time, 9 stone bridges were built across the ditch so that a neighbor of the Shakers named Ham could reach his pastures on the eastern side of the ditch. End of quote. And I do know on Wyven Road, Ham Cemetery is back in there. So I guess that fella owned most of that land up in there. The purpose of this ditch is to feed the mills that the Canterbury Shakers used to produce things. So it started at the naturally occurring Lyford Pond, north of Shaker Village, by about 2.5 miles. It left the south end of Lyford Pond and drained into Beaver Pond, or what we call Beaver Pond, which is down in the bottoms of Hancock Road. It pops out of the south end of Beaver Pond and continues the 2 miles into North Family Pond, which was constructed in 1814. To the east of North Family Pond, that was also a feeder, was East Pond, constructed in 1836. Well, then North Family Pond then fed Fountain Pond. Not sure when it was constructed. Fountain Pond fed Turning Mill Pond, which was constructed in 1817, and Turning Mill Pond fed Sawmill Pond, constructed in 1800. A 1840 account described by a Canterbury Shaker Village visitor described what was referred to as, and I quote, the novel artificial water power. And they write, quote, our next object of attention was the artificial water power created by the first family in an almost incredible amount of labor and expense. Here, where no natural stream ever ran, they have created a more permanent and durable water power that can be found within the distance of 10 miles. To make this water power effective in the dry as well as in wet seasons, no less than 8 artificial ponds covering from 5 to 30 acres each have been created, one rising above the other and each furnishing a stream large enough to carry different mills and factories. End quote. So as was said, there were 9 bridges made. Here is bridge number 2. And these slabs of granite that cross the ditch are gigantic. It's just amazing how they move these big pieces of rock. I'm assuming oxen were used. That probably would have been the primary way they moved all this material. But there are 9 bridges. In the background of this video, pretty much for the entire thing, you're going to hear the Loudon Motor Speedway. They're not having a race, but there's some cars over there that are going around the track. So you're going to get a little V8 noise, little V8 back music during this vid. Oh well. The 2 Malinois puppies, Rex and Buckeye, they're doing really well on these walks. We do have them on tracking collars, just in case we lose track of them. But, I've found that the Malinois breed, they are very socially oriented to their people, and they don't want to stray far. They like to hang out around with the coonhound because she's kind of the boss, and she's not going to let them get into too much trouble. There is a section that I'm pointing to here. I don't know how long, but it's got to be close to 1/8 of a mile, where there are the remnants of another ditch. Now, the map and the reference material that I sourced stated that the ditch was widened and deepened somewhere in 1839, 1840. I don't think that's entirely the case. I think they moved the ditch or reoriented the ditch to make it more efficient. And in the archaeological account that I've been referencing, it does note on page 17, and I quote, between 1839 and 1840, the ditch was widened, straightened, and deepened for a stretch of 2 miles. So the remnants of that other ditch that we're seeing is probably where they straightened it out some. So you may be asking yourself, who the heck are the Shakers? Well, reading from Mr. Starbuck's beginning paragraph in his account, The Shaker Mills in Canterbury, New Hampshire, I'll read, and I quote, "The Shakers represent one of America's best known and most successful communal societies, spanning the period from the late 18th century up until the present. They are sometimes portrayed as representing an extreme response to the appearance of the Industrial Revolution, essentially a rejection of the modern workplace. And yet, they accepted technological change with great rapidity and were immensely successful in their craft manufactures and light industry. Nearly all Shaker villages were largely self-sufficient in the processing of raw materials, and most villages included one or more sawmills, grist mills, turning mills, carding mills, and other process and manufacturing establishments. What may have been the most industrialized Shaker village, the one located in Canterbury, New Hampshire, has now been documented in detail, and historical records together with present-day surface evidence reveal the remains of a mill system that was once extensive and central to the village's economy." End quote.
Am I still on?
Yep.
Here's a stretch along the ditch where you can actually see the outline of the old ditch that was straightened back in 1839, 1840. You know, something I figured out about this walk years ago, back in the early 2000s. I had a chow chow, and chow chows are not terribly athletic dogs, so taking them on high elevation hikes really wasn't a thing. They're kind of post-legged. They're not really inclined to do jumping and that sort of thing. But you could bring that chow out here and she would just run up and down this ditch and just have a blast. And you could take her for the entire 5 mile back and forth, and she loved it. And then I got another chow, and now I have two chows, and they took to it both very, very easily. Well, that's when I start thinking, you know what, I want to get me some coon hounds. Well, then I got Big Blue. Blue, the red-bone coonhound. Then I got Belle, Gypie, the irrepressible blue-tick coonhound, and they just love this ditch. We ran up and down this ditch all the time. We tried to keep it clear, tried to keep it clean, and pick up the litter as we found it, which I'll bet I didn't find 5 pieces of litter in the 25 years I've been here. On this ditch, because nobody comes back here. And it's not that far off a Shaker Road, but, you know, it's just right off the back of our house. I can walk out the back of my house a few hundred yards, and there it is. So we bring the dogs out here. Now the Malinois love it. Great place for walking dogs. All right, we just cut a big corner there because it actually wraps all the way around that way. But we cut the corner and now we're at bridge number 5. Gypie likes going underneath because there is often a critter that lives underneath there. All these bridges. Get him, Gyp. There's quite a bit of deadfall from the winter that we'll clean up. This is the first time we've really walked the ditch this spring. But we'll spend the next few months cleaning it up and making it a nice walk. So over here you can see what looks like a ditch. Well, it is. It's probably the original ditch that they decided wasn't working as well. That Belgian Malinois with the red collar, that's Rex. And up ahead, running up ahead, is his brother, Buckeye. We call him Buck. They're 5-month-old, almost 6-month-old Belgian Malinois. Really good dogs. And we're really glad to have them. I've made mention of the elevation gain of the Shaker Long Ditch, or the ditch. I did some ciphering. I think the total gradient going from the south of Lyford Pond down to Carding Mill Pond, which is just south of Sawmill Pond, I show the gradient to be about 170 feet. And based on that entire length, that works out to about 2 inches per foot. It's not very much. That's what makes it such an easy walk. Well, we've talked about the long ditch and where it starts and where it ends, but I'm going to read a little bit from Mr. Starbuck's accounting here and tell you a little bit about the operation of the mills. Reading from his page 22, a synthesis of available historical records reveals that the Canterbury Shakers began their milling activities quite modestly with a horse-drawn saw and grist mill in 1797. They built their first water-powered sawmill in 1800 on the side of a newly formed mill pond and then rapidly expanded their ponds and ditching so that they had 9 water-powered mills in operation by 1850. As the village's population and industrial needs declined in the latter part of the century, they slowly dropped to 6 water-powered mills by 1900 and to just 4 mill buildings by 1950, all of which had ceased operations some years before. Most of the mills were built and operated by the Church family, but each of the other Shaker families had at least one mill as well. The northernmost Shaker family, known as the North family, was composed of novitiates who were undergoing special instruction while being prepared for the Shaker life. This family was established in 1801, and shortly afterward, in 1814, a pond was created just east of them, which, appropriately, was named North Family Pond. 2 North Family mills were constructed in 1814 below the dam on the southern perimeter of the pond, one for sawing firewood and the other for turning furniture. Not a great deal was written about the sawmill or wood mill during its early years, except that a dining room was added to the mill in 1824. In 1894, the same year that the North family officially closed and combined with the second family, the sawmill's flat roof was removed and a pitched roof was put on. Between 1902 and 1905, numerous improvements were made, both on the dam and at the mill, including the installation of a new penstock in 1902, the purchase of 6 lumber rolls, 1902, the installation of 2 drag saws, 1903, and the addition of a new slide gate in 1903. These alterations notwithstanding, the Shakers tore down the remains of the old mill in 1912 and burnt them. The sawmill foundation and its wheel pit now stand open, but no artifacts or equipment are visible within the wheel pit. The dam at the southern end of the pond has been well maintained, and there is an open spillway channel, 1 meter in width, at the eastern end of the dam, which at times of high water carried water south from North Family Pond around the 2 mill sites and into Fountain Pond. The North family turning mill lasted nearly as long, but was finally taken down prior to 1891 because it was in poor repair. In 1840, this was described as a mechanic shop with water power for various machinery, and that same year an addition was attached to it with the apparatus and machinery requisite for the ready construction of common family water tubs. Years later, the turning mill was described as being used for making tables, chairs, beds, and tubs and pails. The 15-inch penstock that brought water into the mill is still intact, and water continues to flow through it into the foundation. The wheel pit stands open, but no equipment is visible. About 1/3 of a mile to the west of the North family are the remains of what was termed the West family, a short-lived branch of the North which erected buildings between 1801 and 1805 and then was formally gathered in 1806. Because a stream, which they named Meadow Brook, ran along the western edge of the village, they were able to dam it and raised a combined sawmill and turning mill in 1805. This sawmill contained 2 turning lathes, and it apparently continued in use until the West family was abandoned, a drawn-out process which lasted from 1808 until 1819. There is no record of further activity here until 1850, at which time the dam was repaired and the sawmill ceased to be used, although it may have survived as recently as 1916 when the Branch family, composed of remnants of the Second and North family, finally closed. The dam was subsequently breached, and stones from the sawmill and dam are now scattered along the bottom of Meadow Brook. The milling that was conducted by the North, West, and Second families was clearly on a small scale when compared to that of the Senior or Church family. The Church family had by far the most members, typically over 100, whereas each of the other families rarely contained more than 50. It had the most capital available for investment purposes, and it usually had the best developed sales network for its manufacturers. The construction of the extensive Shaker mill system appears to have been carried out chiefly for the benefit of the Church family. And they placed mills upon 5 of the ponds, while deriving water from the 3 ponds located north of them. East Pond and Fountain Pond served solely as reservoirs for the Church family, and the same water was used over and over as it passed through the mills. This is bridge number 7. If I remember correctly, if you follow up this old path, this old 2-track up here on the right side of the bridge here, I think that takes you up to the old Odyssey House, or I forget what it's called now, but it's some kind of rehabilitation center for substance abusers, something like that. I suspect throughout this video you've noticed that many areas of the ditch have water in it, but that water isn't flowing. It's just nothing more than upcoming mosquito habitat. Okay, we're approaching bridge number 8. Gypie's gonna go in there and see if there's any critters in there. She didn't smell any, so she says we're gonna move on. In one of the sections of the ditch, I love this overhead drone shot where you can see on the right-hand side of the ditch, there was a clear cut, I guess it's been about 12 years ago now, maybe 15 years ago. And on the left side is uncut. Now, through the trees on the immediate left, you can see some water out there. That would be East Pond, which was constructed in 1836. And then just straight ahead, you can just barely make out the northernmost tip of North Family Pond, which was constructed in 1814. We're going to close out this video with a little bit of music and want to thank you all for watching. I hope you subscribe to our channel and like if you like, and subscribe if you want to. We really appreciate it, and thank you for taking this walk with us.